Alright guys, I'm going to do number 11 for you to kind of help out, give you guys another look at this. So here's number 11, it's the quadratic, x squared plus 4x plus 3. And we're going to graph that. It also asks us to label the axis of symmetry and the vertex on the graph. So we'll do that as we go along. First thing I want you to notice with this is that our y-intercept is right here. It's our c value. So our y-intercept is 3. So we're going to go over here and label that point. The y-intercept should be right here at 3. So there's our y-intercept. Now let's go back and find the next point that we should be concerned with, and that's going to be our vertex. Okay, so if you remember correctly, we get the axis of symmetry and the x-coordinate of the vertex by using this little expression, negative b, or opposite b, over 2a. So let's plug that in and calculate it, and we'll get the x-coordinate and our axis of symmetry all at once. So if we take the values here, our opposite b is going to be 4. So opposite b will be negative 4. So that's what will go on top here. Okay? And then we'll take the next part is going to be 2 times our value a. And if you look closely here, since there's no a there, there's always a 1. So it's going to be a 1. So 2 times 1 is just 2. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So what we found was 2 bits. We found that our x-coordinate, our vertex, is negative 2, and we found that our axis of symmetry goes through negative 2. So there's our axis of symmetry. We know the vertex is on there somewhere. We just have to find it. So to find it, we're going to evaluate now. We're going to take that negative 2, and we're going to evaluate the function at negative 2. And that's going to find us the y-coordinate that goes with our vertex. So let's go ahead and do that now. Wherever we see an x, we're going to plug in a negative 2. So it's going to be negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus our 3. Okay? So negative 2 squared is 4 plus 4, oops, let me take that back. 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8. And then we add 3 to that. If we combine negative 8 and 4, we get negative 4. And negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So our final coordinate, our y-coordinate, our output for our vertex is negative 1. So that point should be at negative 2, 1, so we're going to go ahead and mark that. They'll let me do that again. So there's our vertex. Okay. Let's go back and look at one more thing. We'll notice that this a value here is going to, because it's positive, tell us that our parabola is going to open upwards, and it's going to have a minimum. Okay, so this is going to be the lowest point, this red dot here, that's going to be our lowest point, and it should open upwards. Now we're going to use our axis of symmetry and that idea of symmetry to find us one additional point. So we've got that y-intercept here, this orange y-intercept. We're going to go ahead and use that, and we're going to go the same distance across that y-axis, or that axis of symmetry. And we're going to get ourselves a coordinating point. So right here should be 2 away. The y-intercept here is 2 away from the axis of symmetry, so we get one coordinating point on the other side. So we've got a pretty good start to our parabola here. We do, however, want one more point to make it a little bit more rounded out, a nicer, more accurate graph. And so if we look at all the values that we have available here, we want to pick something close to these values that we've got. We've already got a x-coordinate or we got an x value of 0. We've got one at negative 2, so we're probably going to use negative 1 there. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick negative 1. So f of negative 1 is going to be our additional point. So we're going to plug that into our function. So wherever we see an x, we're going to put a negative 1 this time. So we're going to get negative 1 squared plus 4 times the negative 1 plus that 3. So if we do a quick calculation on that, get 1 minus 4 plus 3, and we can see there that 1 and 3 are going to make 4, and a negative 4 make a 0. So our new point that we just picked and found is going to be negative 1, 0. So let's plot that. Negative 1 and 0 should be somewhere right in there. Again, this gives me a hard time with that if I don't scribble fast enough. Well, we're also going to mark the point of symmetry. So now we've got 5 points. It's enough to make a really nice graph here, so we're going to go ahead and sketch this in. So I'm going to sketch up my parabola, looks something like that, and on the other side, if I sketch it up, should look something like that. Let me try to fill it in a little bit better. So right there, we found our vertex to start. Actually, we found our y-intercept first, then we found our vertex, and then we found one additional point. So that gave us the 5 points we need, and then there is the graph. The only thing we have left to do is label everything. So it says label the vertex, so we'll write vertex, and we'll label it -2, -1, and it also asks us to label the axis of symmetry. So we'll put a line to it and say axis of symmetry, and we'll say x equals -2. So those are the two things that it asks us to label. So at this point we're done with this problem, and if you have any more questions, make sure to post them on the site. We'll see you tomorrow.